Welcome to my channel. This video is the first in a series entitled Living in Paradise, where I'll explain the ups and downs of living in Thailand. We'll dig deep into cultural aspects as well as the more common everyday stuff. Stick around and enjoy this true story. Seems like a nice perch. I hope you can see the view behind me here, looking upstream. Yeah, I've got a story to tell you, and this is all about people searching for paradise. Usually sort of some sort of midlife crisis that these well, let's say Westerners, because it usually is Westerners. They have some difficulty in their lives and they think, okay, I'm gonna make a new start. So they come over this way thinking they're going to find some perfect bride and this beautiful country, live the life of luxury on the beach and just really take it easy, which is great. I mean, when you go on holiday, that's exactly what sort of experience you have. This beautiful landscape and beautiful beaches and all these things. But that is just a holiday, and it's great short term. But long term, it doesn't usually pan out as well. And these people get this thought in their minds, and they just want to come over here and live this perfect life. So I'm going to give you an example of an experience that happened to somebody very close to us. Actually, he was an employee working as an English teacher in our school, and really nice guy. We used to sit and have coffees and talk for hours. He had all these amazing stories. An older guy, I think he was approaching his 60s, certainly 55 up. And yeah, really nice guy, really, salt of the earth sort of person. And I think deep down he had actually lived in Africa and all over the world actually. And he sort of had this dream. I think it was sort of starting to take root. And we had him working at a contract school, and that was in a small town, like a large village, small town sort of thing. And that was about 20 kilometers away from the city itself, the city where our school is. And he decided he was going to go and live out that way, which is fair enough. He found this place to rent and everything, a small townhouse. And there he was quite happy out there. And his neighbour opposite, in the same street, it was a young family, and they were a sort of Chinese family. So if you can imagine, the mother-in-law, she was living with the son and his wife, and they also had a young child. And so I think she was trying to escape this life that she was living. It's pretty rough, and she used to tell all these stories about how her mother-in-law hated her, and she was basically a slave in the house and couldn't go out and all these things, and she was finding it really rough, this lady. So she befriended our teacher, and I'm going to call this teacher, I'm going to call him Gare, because that was a name that my eldest daughter gave him. She was about 3, I think, when all this happened. And that obviously wasn't his real name. Yeah, so I don't want to give his identity away. And yeah, so this is we'll call him Gare, which means older person. And this is the nickname my eldest daughter gave him. So you can imagine this 3-year-old kid calling this sort of 55-year-old teacher, he's calling him Gare. That was quite comical. So anyway, this guy, he started seeing this lady quite often. She'd wander across and go and have a chat with him and stuff. Until in the end, she started camping out there almost. Not staying the night or anything, but in the evening she would go over there and they'd have a glass of wine together and stuff. And it got to the stage where they were sort of cuddling on the sofa and stuff, and both my wife and I were thinking, wow, this is getting very serious, and this is territory you don't really want to be entering. So we did actually pull him aside and sort of gave him the facts of life. This guy was I was like 26, 27 I think at the time, or maybe approaching 30 I think. And this guy was almost double my age, and my wife was 4 years younger than me, and there we were sitting this guy down and giving the facts of life and everything. Not appropriate, and he didn't take kindly to that either. So yeah, I mean, that fell on deaf ears. He didn't take the slightest bit of notice about what we had to say. And she was just convincing him all the time that she was deeply in love with him and all this stuff, and he was like head over heels. He really was. Poor guy. And we just tried so hard, and even the other teachers, they were sort of like nudging him and saying, "Are you sure about this?" And all of us could see through what was going on. And anyway, she sort of convinced him that she was head over heels in love with him, and that they were planning long-term plans together and all these things. Our relationship, our working relationship, kind of soured after my wife and I kind of kept on at him a bit, saying, "You really ought to watch yourself, and don't believe everything she says," and these sorts of things. But he wasn't having any of it, and in the end, the relationship soured so much that he actually left. And he persuaded another teacher to leave with him, and they proceeded to steal one of our contract schools. And so the pair of them, they went off and worked at this contract school directly. And yeah, that only lasted a year, which I knew it wasn't going to last long, because it never does. And the relationship soured three ways, so both the teachers fell out, and the contract school fell out with the teachers, so yeah, that ended in tears. She had convinced him that they should go back to her hometown, which is up in the northeast of Thailand. And so they both packed up and moved up to the northeast. They decided they were going to start a business together. And it was actually an internet cafe, which is all the rage at the time. Oh, before that, yeah, I missed a bit. So while they were still working for us, she convinced him to transfer all of his life savings into a joint bank account. Now, I mean, if that's not a red flag, I don't know what is. But he was just so gullible, and he just did what she said. She was saying, "Oh, I'm going to trust you and all this if you do this thing," and he did it. So he bought all of his funds over, his life savings, and bought them all over and put them into a joint bank account. And so, pretty much everybody around saw the red flag and just said to him, "You're crazy if you do that," and he did it. And he sort of distanced himself with pretty much everyone and just started believing her. And yeah, so then they moved up to the northeast and started this business. And get this, she was so keen to dump this guy after bleeding him dry that the technician that came in and set up all the computers, she got off with him. So she started a relationship with him just to get rid of this Westerner that she obviously didn't like. I mean, how bad is that? Poor guy. So he went back to the UK and sort of licking his wounds, and we never heard from him ever again. Nobody ever did. So yeah, poor guy, eh? So completely and utterly ripped off, and wouldn't listen to anybody. When they were sort of trying to give him words of wisdom and words of advice, he just wouldn't listen. So he was blinded by love. He was deaf and dumb. I'm hoping this is going to be a number of episodes on this particular topic. Coming over and living in paradise. There's two sides to the story. I mean, there's obviously cultural issues. We have to think of this from the woman's perspective as well. What she's after, and why is she after this? So yeah, we'll come back to that in another episode. Okay, so that's the first installment. Hope you enjoyed it.